The Gauteng Province's third quarter crime statistics for the 2022-2023 financial year, covering the period of the 1st of October to the 31st of December 2022, show that the province has seen an increase in cases such as rape, murder and other serious crimes. And as part of its crime prevention boosting program, the Gauteng Provincial Government will from today deploy 6,000 crime prevention wardens to different crime hotspots and business precincts. Now, the initiative was unveiled by Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi and has seen previously unemployed and qualifying young people trained in multi-policing disciplines, including gender-based violence and community patrolling. Now, the over 40 million rand project has received mixed reaction, with some businesses and crime prevention organizations, including the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union POPCRU, welcoming the move. So to talk to us about this, we're joined by Richard Mamabolo, who's spokesperson of POPCRU. Richard, good morning. Happy Workers' Day to you.
Good morning and happy Workers' Day to you too.
So first off, the deployment of these crime wardens in communities, does this mean that the South African police services are not winning the war against crime, would you say?
I would say, firstly, we do welcome the move to actually have these 4,000 wardens who will obviously be integrated into working with the police. What is important for us is that there should definitely be some form of synergy. So it therefore becomes important that whatever strategies that they would be applying are in line with those of the SAPS, because we do not want to have a situation where there is competition, but as well as ensuring that they then coordinate the work in such a multidisciplinary facet. What problems we've been having recently is that, remember that earlier during the year, we had about 10,000 intakes nationally for the SAPS. Now, at the same time, we also had about 6,000 of those who have retired early, and some of them have left the service for various reasons. So this 4,000 will definitely boost the work of ensuring that we then focus on these areas which would obviously be crime hotspots, and we just hope that they will work in line with what the SAPS strategy is currently.
Okay, so I think this is what most of us are trying to understand. From what you have been told and your understanding of this, how exactly are these wardens going to assist or augment what the SAPS is already doing? How are they going to work together, or will they not work together? Explain to us exactly what they'll be doing and what their statutory powers are.
Thank you. I think what you had earlier mentioned is the fact that they will obviously be focusing on specific areas which would probably be hotspots, just like you had indicated that crime statistics are out. Now, their role would obviously be towards complementing the police, but as well as doing further investigations wherein police are stretched. Remember that there have also been noted challenges around how all police investigations are undergoing, and of course the length of time that it takes for certain arrests to be made. So they will then be complementing that role. So there's nothing specifically special about them having been put into that role, but there will be more focus, of course, on areas which police have not necessarily been able to address in a sufficient manner. And that, of course, has got a lot to do with the level of, the limited capacity that our police generally have in the country.
So, and I suppose this is, part of the consternation for me thinking through this, Richard, because if you look at this group of wardens, and they comprise previously unemployed youth who have now undergone 4 months of training. Now, what exactly would they have gained in terms of specific competence in those 4 months of training? And is that sufficient for them to tackle serious crimes that we are dealing with in Gauteng Province?
Look, the training issue has always been a concern, and I think with anything the SAPS as well, we've always said that we need to ensure that training is a continuous process, because even criminals have got a far advanced actually, technologically and otherwise, wherein they actually will have the best form of resources which they utilize to commit this crime. So it's something that we would obviously have to look into, but we would be under the imagination that the training process is something that will happen on a regular basis. And of course, this should as well apply within the SAPS.
So Will these wardens, will they be carrying firearms? Again, I'm just trying to get some clarity on it, what exactly they will be doing. Because if we're told they're going to be deployed to crime hotspots, to informal settlements that are crime-ridden, how exactly are we going to send them in there to places where the police themselves, who have more resources, are scared of going into in most instances?
It's not the case that police are scared really, but I think what is definitely sure here is that they will definitely have to be fully resourced, because you cannot, of course, expect a person to go into a crime scene without having the necessary protection. They're basically going to perform all the duties that police do perform, just to complement the numbers as well, but as well as focusing on specific, like I had mentioned, cases that out of the statistics that would be identified as areas which need urgent attention. So they definitely will be resourced. I mean, even police reserves are not allowed to, those who have not completed their courses, they are not allowed to be utilized to be, to wear uniform without necessarily having sufficient protection. And that, of course, is something which we have seen during the festive seasons in most cases, which would probably most definitely place their lives in danger. So they will definitely be resourced.
You say that police are not scared, even though we've anecdotally heard that this is the case in some areas. And also, we've heard of police stations being guarded by private security. So what message does that send? And again, in terms of the resources, what sort of resources would be going to the police in this instance? And are they going to share resources, or how exactly is this going to work?
No, they're not going to share resources. They're just going to complement each other. We think that the fact that how most of our police stations, of course, have had challenges, it's due to the fact that there are many underlying challenges that they face, with infrastructural integrity, especially townships within, police stations within townships and, rural areas. But within affluent areas, of course, there are certain security measures that are being taken. But as well, it's got a lot to do with the capacity that the police have. I mean, in most cases, you find that there's always a limited number of police who have to look after a certain area, which has got probably over 20, 30,000 people there. And therefore, their response time cannot be as efficient as it's supposed to be. So with this 4,000 warrants, it will actually make the job of the police officers actually easier. That is why we're insisting that in whatever measures that are being taken, we need to ensure that there is synergy and that, the strategy around fighting crime becomes one strategy. And of course, I think one of the issues that we've always looked at too is the fact that we will be having a policing endeavor, which will actually, look into the role of policing in general, but as well as to ensure that how do we then work with communities as well to ensure that they actually play a bigger role, because ultimately at the end of the day, crime is no longer a policing matter. We need to have communities that actually play a bigger role in ensuring that police can do their job.
So who would these wardens be reporting to?
From what we know, they do have a structure, but as well as keeping in touch with the different police stations. You remember that, for example, if a person is arrested, the nearest point would obviously to take them to a police station. So there is that link. They will definitely be working. They've got their structure, but they'll definitely be in communication with the SAPS management structures across the province.
So not clear as to who they would be reporting to per se, but, how much authority would they actually have, these crime prevention wardens, in executing arrests without a warrant? Because the other question then becomes, how much of the responsibilities of the SAPS members would they be taking away?
Yeah, that is yet to be determined. But remember that we've got, in different provinces, there are, different departments. In this instance, you've got in Gauteng, Mrs. Mazibuko, who is an MEC of Safety and Security. And you have normally traffic officers who report under her jurisdiction. And this, of course, would obviously as well apply as to how they actually function. But ultimately, whatever kinds of activities or arrests they do make, just as in the case of Johannesburg, JMPD, for example, they work obviously with the structure, but at the end of the day, whatever they do, whatever arrest they do, in fact, it is then a responsibility that is carried through by the SAPS.
The SAPS Code of Conduct, Mr. Mamabolo, includes upholding and protecting the fundamental rights of every citizen and every person in this country. Now, when it comes to exercising those powers conferred upon the members of the SAPS and the responsibility that comes with that, and being able to execute your duty in a controlled manner, do you know whether the crime prevention wardens have to follow that same code?
Most definitely, there are prescripts that define how a police officer or policing in general is supposed to function. So we would not expect that they would work outside of the parameters that have been set, because the mandate of policing is actually a constitutional mandate. So anything that is outside parameters would definitely not be accepted. The main thing really is basically to give support to police officers, and of course not have necessarily other powers that might not necessarily be within the prescripts.
So it's going to be interesting because, I can imagine some people who are in the community policing forums asking, how is what these wardens are going to do different to what they have been doing. And do you know whether some of those who have been part of the CPFs have actually been incorporated into these wardens?
Look, it's not clear. I think what has been clear is the fact that you've got a lot of young people, and most of them would definitely not have been part of this community policing forums. But as well, the relationships between community policing forums as well as the SAPS have not necessarily been so good. And of course, I think there is currently an attempt to revive that relationship. So we think that in whatever is being done, we will obviously see how they actually carry themselves out. But it's going to be quite important that this CPS then do play a role in ensuring that we all work together in fighting crime in these different areas.
And just finally, in terms of remuneration, do you know how much they will be remunerated, Mr. Mamabolo?
It is not clear at the moment.
So there are still a lot of variables in this regard. But of course, we were hoping that we'd get someone from Gauteng government to speak to us about that. Unfortunately, we haven't received a timeliest response, but we'll follow up on that. But Richard Mamabolo, thanks for your time. Spokesperson of the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union, POPCRU, talking to us about their views on the unveiling of Gauteng Province's crime prevention wardens who are being deployed to fight crime in the province's hotspots starting today.